Welcome to Scorched Earth and the general reading for the sign of Scorpio, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of November 2024. I hope you're well and happy birthday season to you. I'm using the Night Sun Tarot for you today. Before we begin, if the reading resonates with you and you'd like to explore that a little bit deeper, you're able to do so via the first link in the description box, which will take you to Vimeo, or by the second link in the description box, which will take you to my private community, which is the Order of the Phoenix over on the Circle platform. There you can get access to all of the extended content, so not just for Scorpio, but for all of the signs. And hang out with a truly extraordinary group of people and maybe learn some things along the way as well, because we do have like workshops and shit happening over there. So if that sounds like it might be of interest to you, you know what to do with those links. Right, Scorpio, let's have a look and see what's going on with you. Could I have 3 cards for Scorpio, please? Wow, okay. We have the we have the 4 of Swords and the 8 of Pentacles in reverse. I shall tell you why I kind of like, yeah, in a second. What about current energy for Scorpio, please? Okay, we have the 5 of Pentacles on its side, and what's coming towards Scorpio, please, for their birthday season? What do they need to know? What does Scorpio need to know? Right, we have the King of Pentacles. So we've seen somewhat of a theme rippling through this this time here. We do have, let's just shift those around, the Moon at the bottom of the deck. For me, that is a Cancer card. And it does talk about, it talks a lot about the subconscious, right? If the Sun represents our conscious state, then the Moon represents what's going on underneath. I've just dropped a tarot deck on the floor there, trying to tidy this up for you. Never mind. There we go. That's a little bit better. I want you to be able to see what's going on and not be distracted by other stuff in the background. So we can see somewhat of a theme going on that seems to be hitting you right in the subconscious, because we do have the Moon there, right? But it's around the theme of Pentacles. It's around the theme of where your energy is expended. Now, let's get some clarifiers out and then we'll deal with what this is all about. Tell me about the 4 of Swords and the 8 of Pentacles, please. We have the World, the Queen of Pentacles, and the Hermit card showing up. Makes a lot of sense. Tell me about the 5 of Pentacles on its side, please. Why is this here for Scorpio? Thank you. There's 1. We have the 5 of Cups, a Scorpio card. Let's go here. Knight of Cups in reverse. I do want one more card for that. That's not. I don't want to leave it there. Let's go with that. So we've got 2 always, the Moon and the Strength card. And tell me about the King of Pentacles. Why is that here for Scorpio? We have the High Priestess and the Sun. I love this for you, Scorpio. Not gonna lie. Right. We have the 8 of Cups at the bottom of the deck here, and the way that this is weaving together is so in alignment with the personal readings that I've been doing for Scorpios over the last week or so. It's really weird how this happens, right? I open up for personal readings. The calendar generally is kind of open for about, I don't know, 4 or 5 months at a time, right? That's the period that people can book in. And people book all sorts of dates depending on when is, convenient for them. And I've noticed over the years that there is a pattern in so much as, despite the fact that the diary is open to everyone to pick whatever date they like, signs come in waves. Numbers come in waves as well. You know, certain life paths will all show up at the same time, but also certain signs will all show up at the same time. So despite the fact that the calendar has been open since the beginning of September, for some reason this date here, or this week here, was really significant for Scorpios collectively to come and book. And what we've got going on here are themes that I have seen in the personal readings that I've been doing for Scorpios for the last week. Have I already said that? I think I might have already said that. Anywho, what am I talking about? I'm talking about the level of exhaustion that seems to be rippling through the Scorpio collective at the moment. It's not debilitating by any stretch, you know, people are not falling down dark holes and stuff, but there's a sense that Scorpio souls are a little bit tired. Now, it isn't because or maybe it is actually. I was going to say, what it's not signifying to me is that you need to just sort of bow out of everything that you're committed to at this point, although there is a way of reading these cards to say that's exactly what you should be doing. It feels more to me like what it is that has been exhausting you, Scorpio, is kind of what is flagging up for your attention. So the exhaustion is actually the point rather than a byproduct of something that you've been involved with, right? The Four of Swords is that card of taking a break. It's taking a step back, but it's also about employing a certain degree of objectivity around what it is that has been tiring you out. You know, the Eight of Pentacles in its reversed state here is asking if it's worth you being committed to what you're committed to. You know, what is it in your environment that's really, really draining you? And let's not forget that the Eight of Pentacles moves on from the Seven, and the Seven for me is very much an environmental card. It's like there's something in the environment that isn't really operating effectively. What is that? Right? Certainly in its upright presentation. When it shows up reversed, it often means to me that we have identified that thing that is draining us or that is not quite right in our environment. When you move on to the Eight, it's like, here's a new set of things to work at. Here's, because the Eight of Pentacles can be your great work, or it can simply be the things that you do day in, day out that you have become somewhat accomplished at. This feeling of exhaustion, though, that has permeated through means to me, I think, that not only is a bit of self-care a good idea, but that it's time to kind of look around and see what it is that it's time to release, what it is that it's time to let go. Because we've got the World card, the Queen of Pentacles, and the Hermit down here. Now, the World card represents an end. It's a graduation, right? We are completing something in the sense that Scorpio is kind of getting to the final hurdle, or has been getting to the final hurdle of a particular life cycle that they've been in. Whether that's in terms of, you know, what you actually do physically day to day, or the way that you think about the world, the way that you think about yourself. You know, there's this kind of peak experience of exhaustion that's been occurring here that has been designed to try and show you where it is time to move away from a particular thing, a particular perspective, a particular thing that you do in your day-to-day. I mean, for some of you, it might quite literally be your work, and the need to kind of replace what has been depleted within you, whilst simultaneously also working out whether this is actually for you moving forward. Well, I said that there was somewhat of a theme here this month. It is around the Pentacles, where your energy is going, where your attention is going, where your resources are going, whether they're spiritual, emotional, material, or otherwise, you know, because something's trying to complete here, something's trying to end. And this Pentacles, Queen of Pentacles card here, which speaks to me specifically about self-care and the need for it, the need for replenishment and whatnot. And then this Hermit card, which is very much about an internal state, and we see that replicated right across the cards here in terms of your emotions and where they are going, and all of the things that come as things that are able to be invested thereafter. Time, attention, care, energy, love, money, all these sorts of things. Like, whether they're really going in the right place, or whether they've been kind of scattered to the four winds as far away from you as is possible, and the degree to which you need to kind of pull them back to yourselves. Now, the Queen of Pentacles also, for me, because she is a queen, talks about our understanding of the very suit that they represent in the first place, right? So the Queen of Wands is understanding our actions, it's understanding our activity and our motivations for such. The Queen of Swords is about, for me, understanding how we think about things and processing information and all that kind of thing. The Queen of Pentacles is like, where actually has all my attention been going? Where has my energy been going? You know, for some of you, you may have been, I don't know, you might have been doom scrolling a little bit, right? And you found that a lot of your emotional attention has been drained by that act. That's, for example, it doesn't mean that all of you have been doing that, but it's these kind of questions that have been coming up for you, like, where is your attention going and why? Is it going there? Is it time to pull back from things that are draining you in order that you can replenish? And in that act there, we're kind of also crossing a threshold from one cycle to another, where perhaps in the past you might not have felt empowered to make that kind of decision, or you might not have had the discipline to be able to make that decision, because, you know, we could see the Eight of Pentacles here as a lack of discipline in a particular direction. You know, something's shifting, and that's for certain. So when we move into your current energy, we have the Five of Pentacles on its side, and I actually really like the presence of this card. I kind of like the way that the Pentacles are rippling right the way through the reading for you, actually. When this Five of Pentacles is in the upright, it speaks of a state which is unstable on account of us not meeting our own basic needs in one way or another, right? We could have been doing too much. We could have been, too engaged with online stuff. We could be sucked into family drama that sees us having to, keep trying to process stuff, act as a middleman between warring factions. All of these sorts of things are entirely possible. But fundamentally what it comes down to the fact is that there is something that you need and there is something that you are not getting. And further, the Five of Pentacles tells us that it is actually for you to provide that for yourself. It's not for you to hope that other people will provide it for you, or at least even make the space for you to be able to do that, right? This is something that you have to do. Now, if it showed up in the reverse, what we would have is a stabilization of that, right? Where there is the instability in the upright, there is an active stabilization going on in the reverse. And it's like, well, these things don't apply quite so much, or we have at least identified the ways in which our own basic needs are not being met. And from there, we are empowered to do something about it. For you, this card is showing up sideways. Now, I do honour this sideways presentation of cards because it feels to me like it is either that you have not, the energy has not quite committed one way or the other, right? It's kind of hanging in the balance, or that this energy is on the turn. In the case of you, it feels like it's quite complex for you at the moment as an energy to try and work through. It feels like you've kind of been here, which would make sense with the level of exhaustion that I'm seeing in Scorpios at the moment. And it's on its way around to this stabilizing point, but it's not quite there yet because there is some processing that needs to occur first. Now, at this point, I want to bring in these two cards here, these shadow cards that sit at the bottom of the deck. If you don't know what a shadow card is, essentially when you have finished dealing out the cards for the reading, you turn the deck over and you see what is sitting at the bottom of the deck. And this shadow card here represents an underlying theme. It's quite useful for getting an idea of the bigger picture of what's happening within a reading, where this may focus more on the kind of specifics of what's happening, the stuff that's right in front of you. The shadow card can kind of give you the arc of what's actually happening. And we have the Moon and we have the Eight of Cups. Now, these are both watery cards. This is a Pisces card. This one for me is a Cancer card. I think all water signs are complex in their own different ways. But the complexity of the situation, right, which is the complexity of what is going on in your subconscious at the moment, which is possibly proving difficult to put your finger on. It's like this awareness that you're drained on a level that you can't really explain. The energy of the Moon, as with the energy of the Hermit and the High Priestess and even the Moon over here, is kind of drawing your attention to what's going on within. To wit, then, it becomes less about what you are doing in the day-to-day. It becomes less about what you are thinking or you're engaging with in the day-to-day, but more it's the processes that are going on below the radar that are causing you to put your energy out in that direction. For some of you, there might be something that you've been kind of evading, right? Something that you've been trying to move away from subconsciously because it feels uncomfortable. But for others of you, I think it comes down to this either kind of like an emotional mindset of, I don't really feel like I have the right to establish for example, boundaries around my time and my energy. People need me and I feel obliged to go do things with them. But for others of you, what is really strong here is that there is a transitional energy that is going on within you as a human being, right? So it's reflected back to you. The environment is reflecting back to you what you are putting into it. But it's the process of establishing what you're putting into it that is happening at a subconscious level such that you are not aware of it, right? So the question then becomes, how is the situation that you are in a match for the subconscious stuff that's going on with you at the moment? And why is that, in its totality, draining you? How has it been draining you? Why is it draining you? What is it trying to bring your attention to? And so what needs to change in you in order to affect the changes in the environment that you would like to see? Now, we have the Five of Cups in the upright. We have the Knight of Cups in the reverse here. And we could quite simply read that as, Scorpio, your cup is empty. And if your cup is empty, then it doesn't matter how much you try to give to people or to circumstance or to situations. You will find yourself permanently exhausted. What this is saying is it's necessary for you to take a step back and truly replenish yourself on this level, whilst also simultaneously trying to work out what the motivations for depleting yourself in this way have been. And it could be different for all of you. I mean, at this point, I'm going to pull out the Wild Unknown here. It's the Moon at the bottom of the deck again. Just ask what it is that's going on underneath the radar with you here. Like, what do we have here? We have the Knight of Cups again in the reverse. Oh Lord, look at this. I've just got the most insane goosebumps, Scorpio. It's just fucking whole body goosebumps at the same time. You have the Knight of Cups again in the reverse. You have the Moon again in the upright, right? This is really drawing your attention to this. But check out what you've got at the bottom of the deck. The Five of Pentacles. I mean, this is very much the universe saying, I said what I fucking said. Now, are you paying attention, Scorpio? I think if your attention has been fractured, if you've been looking off in 50 different directions because your attention has been drawn that way, I don't know, through drama or crisis or whatever. And I don't feel like these are your dramas. I don't feel like they're your personal crises. I feel it's very much about what other people are wanting from you and trying to, well, say trying to take, but certainly demanding this attention, whether consciously or subconsciously, because it's not, I think for most Scorpios, it's not that you've got people banging on the door and demanding your attention that way. I mean, I can't think of a worse way to try and get a Scorpio's cooperation than that kind of overt demand for something. But it does feel like there's a subconscious sense of responsibility that you feel for another person, a group of people, maybe it's humanity as a whole. I don't know, Scorpio, anything's possible with you. Even in terms of what may at this point feel like a spiritual mission for you, particularly if it's kind of humanity as a whole that you're thinking about right now, right? There's something kind of pulling on you and activating this sense of responsibility, but I feel for you it is slightly misplaced, or it is being expressed in a way that is not very healthy for you. Maybe that, you know, your antennae are tweaking just a little bit too hard and you're picking up on things that is creating within you this need to go be the person who helps solve it, right? Scorpio is very good solution-oriented thinkers. I feel like that's actually probably a quality of the fixed signs generally, right? Because we carry the season. So anything that would act as an impediment to the consistency of something is something that we naturally get involved in, and we're like, nah, We're going to sort that problem out and get it out of the way so that we can carry on the business of being consistent and carrying the season. Now, this is very, very much confirming that your cup is entirely fucking empty and it is time for you to take a step back. But in that process of stepping back and looking at what's going on, right, it's not a permanent step back, but it is one that is required, because something about what you're responding to needs tweaking in its execution, right? Yeah? So maybe you've got the sensitivity dialed up to 11 and maybe it needs to be turned down to 9 at this point, just to give you a bit of space to breathe in it. But then there's also the question of whether you are taking responsibility for things that actually aren't yours. Now, again, this is pretty much a fixed sign thing. When we see other people suffering, when we see other people perhaps in crisis, or when we see, people falling out over stupid stuff, which is probably really fucking strong, I would imagine, at least in the United States at the moment. I'm talking politics, if you don't know what I'm kind of tangentially referring to there. There can be a sense that we kind of need to get involved to ameliorate the situation a little bit. And this is saying that, Scorpio, no. Like, you have a whole, a vast breadth of skills and abilities, but if you are going to exercise them with discernment, maybe you need to turn the sensitivity down. Maybe you need to question whether this is something that really you even need to be involved in. Some of you might be feeling compassion burnout. There's a specific word for it. I forget. There's a specific phrase for it, but like this kind of emotional energies are running so high at the moment that it's practically unsustainable, right? Which is to say, not almost unsustainable, but in practice unsustainable. And if you are sensitive to these things, then you are running the risk of burning out much, much swifter than people who are a little bit numb, shall we put it that way, right? And so what you're being gifted here is an opportunity to be discerning about the level of sensitivity that you exhibit at this time, whilst also questioning whether what you're trying to involve yourself in, or where your attention is going, and thereby your energy is flowing thereafter, whether this is actually your responsibility. Because we've got 2 fire signs here, Aries and Leo, in the Emperor and the Strength card, which are both involved, which both speak of external expressions of energy. But in the first instance, I think what they're saying here is that you need to power yourself up, Scorpio, before you can get out there and do any more. Now, because the situation needs tweaking, if you take this moment to power yourself up, but you don't address the underlying issues, which are whether your own basic needs are being met, whether your cup is full, and how it will maintain its, its level of content, then you will just deplete yourself again. So there's a 2-pronged thing going on here. Take the rest that you need, and I'm not joking when I'm saying I'm seeing serious exhaustion in the Scorpio collective at the moment. Take the rest that you need, but in that quiet space, also be asking yourself what it is that you specifically are responding to, the responsibility that you're trying to take for things. I mean, does it, Scorpio, does it revolve around this? As I said, this is a Scorpio card. And for me, it's a card that deals with grief and bereavement, and not simply by the passing over of someone that we love, but there are all sorts of things that can cause this. Separation, divorce can cause this, job losses can cause this, falling out with friends can cause this, right? And this is an energy that you are uniquely familiar with. I don't think there is a Scorpio that I've ever met that needed that energy explaining to them, right? You just innately understand it, because more often than not, your life has involved many, many expressions of that same energy. But it's an inherently unstable energy. Now, I don't feel like that is yours. although it's your card, right? I feel like it's what you are seeing in the collective that is in somehow being reflected back to you. Now, what's really interesting is that what's being reflected back to you is not the exact image of what you are, but it's the signpost to what it is that needs to shift in you. There's this huge kind of spiritual upgrade of you happening here, right? So your emotions are not unstable. Your emotions are not stuck in a grief cycle rather than a grief process, right? Because there's a certain stasis, and it's the stasis here that provides the instability. Where there's this kind of free-flowing grief, there's this free-flowing anxiety, there's this free-flowing terror of not only what is being lost or what has gone, but also what may go, certainly in the next month or so, that you're seeing in the collective. And because you understand what that is, it feels like it's tapping into this sense of responsibility that you have to try and help people through it, right? Now, that's fine. That actually isn't a problem. But your quest is somewhat of a side one, right? Your emotional and spiritual development in this case is sideways of what's being reflected back to you. Because it was never going to be, well, how can I control my emotions and all that kind of thing, right? Because like we've already established, you've got that down pat. Your particular journey revolves in the extent to which you are trying to fix everything for everyone because of the experience that you've got. Like I would say to you, Scorpio, that you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink, right? And I feel like maybe Scorpios have been almost like, oh, I don't know, there's all sorts of things going through my head here, right? It's like Hercules trying to empty the lake with a spoon. It's kind of like, got to get all this fucking water out of here. I'm sure that was one of the 12 tasks of Hercules, right? It needs tweaking. It's not that it's wrong, it's just that it needs tweaking because it's depleting you. You're not emptying the lake, and you're not emptying it into the horse that you've brought to the lake. Somehow you seem to be emptying yourself instead. And you will not be in any fit state to truly fulfill the purpose that you're here for if you're in that constant state of depletion. You know, this fire sign energy is like, take charge of yourself, take charge of your growth, your development, right? That has to be your priority first, particularly in this state of exhaustion that you seem to feel that you're in. It feels to me that you're in at the moment. Work out what is yours to do, Scorpio, because it isn't everybody else's emotional state. And particularly if you're dealing with warring factions of family or friends or anything like that, like this enhanced level of sensitivity that you have is going to be really tuned into that. And so even though you are not actually actively expressing all of this stuff, it could be being passively just simply drained away from you. So the discernment to work out what is yours to do is the lesson here. And I'm pleased to say that it looks to me in November like you absolutely nail this, because we've got the King of Pentacles in the upright. Now this is your opposite sign of Taurus. That's the King of Pentacles. But the King of Pentacles is also an energy that I associate very strongly with responsibility and duty, right? Now, all the kings in their own ways express this energy, but it is particularly potent in the King of Pentacles. And it is a continuation of the idea of where your energy is actually going, whether you're aware of it or not. And he's here in the upright, which means that there is a level of mastery of this. We've understood the problem, we've tweaked it, now we're giving ourselves the space to be able to create a state of replenishment and abundance within self. But we're also understanding the level of responsibility that we have for other people, or we don't, right? Ultimately, you're not responsible for other people, but as a spiritual teacher, as a spiritual guide, as a spiritual leader, which feels to me that Scorpio is one of those signs that really is being kind of elevated to that level. You've got to practice what you preach. It's as simple as that. We've got the High Priestess, which is cool because what she's saying is that you're not having to shut down and numb yourself of your sensitive processes, right? Your antennae that tweak and whatnot, in order to truly understand what's going on. But there is more of a passivity about the way that she is showing up for you, right? So it's not like you have to go out there and process these things for people. It's kind of like, well, I know how to do this, and now I'm working on making sure that I'm responsible for myself and I'm providing for myself. And I've got to say, like, it's a big leap up to go from the page of, not page, what the fuck am I talking about? The Five of Pentacles, whether it's on its side or whether it's in the upright, to a very, very strong position of the King of Pentacles, right? It means there's a lot of things that are just clicking into place for you here this month, that are meaning that you don't have to, like I said, become numb or shut down on what is going on in order to function. Actually, the High Priestess is like, no, this is fine, I'm allowing things to move through me rather than trying to stop them and sort them out, resolve them. And consequently, there is a brightening up of the space. There's a kind of a return to the energy levels that you want to experience here in this time. You know, the King of Pentacles has got quite a far-reaching energy, whereas the energy of the King of Swords is very much in the moment, and the energy of the King of Wands is very much in the moment here. Right? That's where the action's happening with those kings. There are consequences, right, and they'll play out over the course of time. But in the immediate, it's about here and now. With the King of Pentacles, and possibly even with the King of Cups, there's something kind of different about it, in so much as it's about action and also inaction at the right time. So it's like, what is yours to do? What are you responsible for? What are you not responsible for? What should you be providing for people? What you should not be providing for people, and providing only for yourself. What we've got is a kind of balancing going on, where you keep everything that is special about you without it, causing you to cave in internally. But we're more actively managing the way that it is coming out. Now, was it last month, Scorpio, that I counselled you not to share too much with people? I feel like it was. I don't think it was the month before that. I think it was last month. And there were various reasons for that. I can't actually bring to mind what any of those were. I probably should go back and watch my own video, right? But I do wonder if I think I probably said this last month, right? The things that were showing up in your life, the messages that you were getting, the confirmations, the validations, even the things that were just dropping into your mind unbidden, like, they were for you and they weren't for general public consumption. Now, I think it's possible that if some Scorpios had kind of adhered to that there could have been a level of challenge with what you know and what you felt, and the extent to which you felt able to share that wisdom with others. Because it didn't feel to me like it was like the wisdom of how to cope, how to do any of these things. It didn't feel like that. It felt like it was very specific for the Scorpio collective, right? That these are things that you need to know and nobody else. And that could have caused some tension. But equally, for those Scorpios who did try and share stuff a little bit, then you might have found that just made things more complicated. I don't know, and see how it would work both ways. But I do feel like what's been happening here is the kind of assimilation of all of that information, and then what it points to in you that required adjustment, right, in terms of the way that you deal with the external world. So this Sun card is a really, really welcome addition. The whole trifecta of the three cards is beautiful together, because we've got consciousness versus unconsciousness, and that means that there's a balance, there's an alignment happening between the two. We've got the High Priestess, who is still very comfortable in receiving or is perhaps more comfortable in receiving the information and understanding that that's for you, and it actually isn't designed to be shared outside of you, save for the worthy. And then we have the King of Pentacles, which is saying, right, I've mastered where my attention and my energy needs to go. I mean, sometimes, particularly if you're gifted with the ability, as Scorpios are, to see and innately understand what is going on within people and have the answer right there. You're like, I can see exactly what this is. If only the person concerned would exhibit the bravery in order to be able to do this particular work, they'd be absolutely fine. But it's that kind of leading the horse to water again, Scorpio. You know, what you've been doing is trying to empty the lake into yourself. Feel like you've been taking on too much responsibility, trying to swallow all of that water, process it, expel it, whatever. And it's just not, in some ways, it doesn't matter what you do, it would not be enough, because it's not been quite the right way to do it. It was never for you to try and empty the lake into yourself, right? It needed to be disposed of elsewhere, and you can't do it alone. It needs lots of people all showing up at the same time to do their work, but that doesn't mean that you have to do their work in order to get them to the point where they can help emptying the lake. Do you see what I mean? I hope that I'm making sense here, Scorpio, and that you're following some of it at least. Well, this is really, really interesting. So I'm going to go over to the extended now, and we're gonna focus on this and the balance and the alignment that is happening here, and what that might look like in terms of how then what you have within you, which is so precious, is actually getting a healthy expression out into the world, and how you balance that out against your own needs, you know. So you can come and join me on Vimeo, you can come and join me on Circle. I would be delighted to see you in either place. If that's not your bag, then just be aware that the exhaustion's coming to an end, right? Maybe it's just in time for your birthday, maybe just after your birthday, wherever you fall in the season. But it's the point, it's not the symptom, right? So we deal with the underlying mechanisms that are going on, what it is that is exhausting you, where those energy leaks are happening. We plug them up and everything feels considerably better thereafter. That's the lesson of this month for you, I think, and just in time for 2025. Oh gosh, we are all living in interesting times. Anywho, I shall leave it there. Know that I love you all very, very much, and I'll see you soon.